Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, to a British tank that is so unique for the British line at top tier, and yet is just slightly below average for the rest of the nations. The Vickers Mk.7, British battle rating 9.7, main battle tank or medium tank of rank 6, and this is a tank that shares the gun with the Challenger Mark II, yet it has 6 seconds reload instead of 5. And add to this the not applying of the expert crew as I have, because it costs a million silver lions, then you really feel the long reload, especially compared to the L7 gun variants or, the American counterpart on those tanks, autoloaders, etc. You then have a disadvantage. But other than this, the tank has one unique characteristic within the British tech tree at this battle rating, and that is that it has a horsepower to ton ratio of 27.5, because it has a 1500 horsepower strong engine propelling the 54.6 ton tank to a top speed of 72 kilometers per hour and even 31 backwards. This is a really speedy tank. The thing though is that it is it is kind of large, right? So the turret is excessively big. And then let's talk about the armor, because it is kind of trash. I mean, I've bounced here and there a few shells, but to be honest, everybody shoots through, and everybody is just shooting your gun breech, your gun barrel anyway, so doesn't really matter. And the second they have a few degrees of your angled side, they just blast the entirety of the tank with an APFSTS shell or heat FS, and the tank doesn't really have all that much survivability because the ammunition is just literally everywhere in the back of the turret, even behind the front armor of the turret. Then in the hull there is literally walls of propellant charges, and you have 4 crew members. So yeah, this tank dies quickly, and it is a tank that is very mobile with a decent gun. About the gun, as I said, it shares the gun with the Challenger Mark II. Again, it has 1 second longer reload, 6 seconds instead of 5 seconds. Minus 10 degrees of gun depression, 20 degrees of gun elevation, and the other thing is that the one thing that really destroys the tank in terms of handling is the 5 degrees of targeting vertical speed, so how fast the gun goes up or down. A lot of the other tanks have just significantly faster gun elevation speed, if you will. And I have to say that this is more like a chieftain tank rather than a Challenger. So at first glance, a lot of the tanks share this within the British tech tree, but the other British tanks, they're just not that fast that they would use this to fire on the move with the quick elevation of the gun being necessary all the time. And just look how this thing goes. It's absolutely amazing if you're used to British tanks, that is. And so I have to say that if you have never played any other nation, if you don't have access to any of the premium tanks, if you just never played something like a Hellcat and you're just used to the slow British tanks, trying to find the ridgeline to get a hull down position, this tank plays completely different. It can work ridgelines better, but not in terms of the armor. It just is better because it can go up and down quicker, and just can go uphill and reverse better, and just turn better. And you have the same overall gun characteristics, right? So the thing is that this tank can go to places. It can choose the engagement. That is the main difference. And this is why I actually had, from a British perspective, kinda a lot of unexpectedly good time. It was not brilliant. There were helicopters everywhere. There were also the Abrams spam here and there, especially the XM1. I was sometimes the only British tank in a complete XM1 heavy team. So those are the downsides, right? And you're always fighting with the Americans, rarely against them, if at all, because in my experience, America and Britain are tied together, in terms of the matchmaker. But in this case, for the British tanks, that's for the better, because I think there is just no simple nation that has that many quick tanks, right? So as you can see, the next feature is a night vision device for third-person view and the commander's view, but there is also a thermal view, and that is pretty handy, right? But again, due to the gun handling, you're very often ending up in night battles by default, and you just try to get a vision on the enemy. And in third-person view, you only have the night vision, the night vision, and sometimes I think that thermal view is indeed better for certain situations. Not always, but especially if you're looking through bushes, if you try to figure out where the enemy is, then that is quite a bit superior. And you don't have this thermal view on the third-person view or on the commander's optic or binoculars. No, it's only there with the gunner's view. If you use the gunner's view, you have just a narrow sight, especially if you're moving quickly, if you just try to switch position, reposition overall, and that very often is difficult to make use because of this limited elevation speed. Nice kill there. I hate aircraft, regardless of the nation. Just die, right? The next thing is that I think a lot of people don't expect this tank to be that quick. Now, it's not the fastest tank there is, right? But it is a really fast tank. I have noted that very often I missed the, better capabilities of such a tank due to me saving the 1 million civil lines on the expert crew. I think if I probably want to have a look at this, and this is one of the downsides, right? Because I actually shot the tent, and then that unveiled here this Soviet tank, and I think to myself, is he really coming out? He is, and I thank it to him with a quick kill. And so I defended the base. But this thermal optic is not everything. It is powerful, especially if you have this artificially increased amount of night battles, which I am not a fan of, to be honest. But, you have to get used to it. I didn't use it in the last patch at all, right? When it was introduced, I just didn't use it because I avoided high tier. And in this tank, I know why. Because the Ki-50 spam is obscene. Overall, there are too many helicopters in the air. And whenever you try to make a play, right, when it comes to fighting tanks, which is something that I quite love to do in my tanks, right? Then there is always a helicopter. And you don't always die to them, but they give your position away. They just track you. They just disable your firepower, gun breach, gun barrel, whatever, cost you crew. And that is really annoying. And there is only so much that you can do versus especially capable helicopter players. Now you can see the reload really starting to get long once you run through the ready rack, and that has cost me a game here and there, but I played quite a few battles with this tank. And when did that happen? At first I didn't realize that I got shot from the side, and I was really confused. So at the time of playing, I didn't realize that I got shot from the side. So, the thing is this. Is this a great tank? For the British, yes. But if you are looking for a tank that is really, really amazing, this tank is okay-ish, but it's not the best. But for the British, this is a better tank than the Chieftain Mark 3, Chieftain Mark 5, Chieftain Mark 10, Challenger Mark 2, Challenger Mark 3, Challenger 2. Why? Because it has speed, and therefore it's no surprise that it comes after the Warrior in the tech tree. I highly suggest that you would go for this and research it, as long as it is really good and usable, before, even more stuff comes in. But this tank is great, I like it, but it's not the very best out there. I think that the AMX-40 is a bit of min-max tank. I think that a great many tanks are just overall better. And there is one factor that really has to be pointed out. It's this very, very, very strange behavior of the ammunition. Because very often I bounced on tanks where I should not have bounced before that. And so this is something that I just want to highlight here. This tank very often can snapshot enemies, but at the end of the day, very often it bounces off, whereas with another tank's gun at this battle rating, you'd have panned the opposition. And with having said this, that's my short presentation on the Vickers Mk.7, a great tank for Great Britain, a mediocre tank for the rest of the pack. And that's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.